I'm here interviewing Anup Dominic. And Anup, tell me where you're from and what program you're in.
Okay, Dr. Ginger, I'm from India, but I never grew up in India. I grew up in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. So South Indian parents, living in Dubai, and Middle East background. That was my upbringing. Went to Middle East schools, and now I'm here in AIAS. I'm from India, but really from Dubai.
So you're a mix of everything.
Yeah.
And your wife is from?
From the Philippines.
From the Philippines. So the whole family is a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should tell you about the rest of the family, but
they just add to the diversity,
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So tell me about what program you're in, Anup.
So I'm in a PhD business program. I'm a doctoral student for business. I may do my emphasis in management or marketing. So right now that's up for grabs.
And you have told me that you didn't start out in an Adventist family. So tell me a bit about your journey. How did you come from, what was that like, and how did you come to be here?
Okay. So I grew up in a Catholic family. So I got priests and nuns in the family. And mom and dad were very religious Catholics. And so they, rose us, or grew us up, or raised us up in the best way they thought was good for us. And took us to church, morning masses, and we did rosaries on our knees, and quite religious family. We had little, Mother Marys and Jesus statues all over our home, so very Catholic, religious. We did religious kind of tourism, we went to the Vatican, or my mom's gone to Lourdes, France, where there's, so, and even when we went to India, we used to go to the big churches. This was the kind of, setting I was
really
raised in.
immersed in the religious life of the church.
Yes, and my dad was a minister in the church, so he used to serve Holy Communion, which is basically giving away, the bread.
I thought the priest does that.
Yeah, but he appoints some men as well, and now women as well. So they have a little team that does that, especially if you have a big congregation.
Yeah.
And so Dubai congregation was huge. It was just one church, and my parents were very involved.
Okay.
And so was I. I was an altar boy, so yeah.
Okay. And then?
And then what happened? Oh, well, I stopped right there. So when I got into my teens, I backed away from the whole altar boy thing, and I sat in the back, and I even jumped out of church. And, I started to get, a little complacent about faith. Mom was very religious, so she used to push us. But nevertheless, what happened was, just lost interest. And the picture I had of God was somebody who was very judgmental, who was out to get you for everything. So that's the kind of religious understanding I've been raised up with. Okay. So God is judgmental. He's out to get you. If something bad happens to you, well, it's because you've done something wrong. That kind of a picture. And then what happened was, when I was about 19 years old, Mom was committed that I should have a good education. So she did what she could. She put money together. She loaned some money. She worked for a good company. So she sent me, my brother, my sister, off to the US at 3 different times. I went to Florida Atlantic University. It's a semi-public school, has a little Jewish community there. And that was an interesting new start for me. So I was 19, living on my own. I didn't do the on-campus living. I did the off-campus living, which was actually a bad decision. So this was where everything was tested. I grew up listening to rap music and R&B music, and that took me into a lifestyle that started to work its own way. Well, what happened was I ended up testing drugs and alcohol, and got into a nightlife and all of that. And I thought that was fun and great. But what it did to me was I was getting depressed. Over the process, the more pleasure I gave myself, I was getting depressed. And this is about the time, 3 years into the US life, Mom calls me and she's got great news. She's become a born-again Christian. And she wants me to come back and test it for myself. And this is also about the time that by some miracle I'm graduating. So I'm graduating, and I don't want to go to Dubai to be with the parents, but nevertheless, because Mom calls me every night, I go.
Yeah.
So finally I make it to Dubai, and there she tells me how she became a Christian. A pastor from Uganda had come to their home, and that was strange for me because they're Indians, and very South Indian, living in Dubai, and there's a Ugandan pastor. This triggered from some of my friend circles, by the way. They got introduced to this pastor who came into their home, preached a few things, and now they became Christians. And they were happy. They were not fighting anymore. And I could see that in their lives. And some of that was desirous. I looked at it and I said, hey, that's something I like to have.
Yeah.
That happiness, that joy. And living with them was beautiful because they were new people and they were in this faith. They just integrated faith with everything.
And both your parents had become Christians in their heart, not
Christians.
Just the forms, but now
Yes.
inside.
But, they were trusting a lot of these pastors, born-again pastors, who came, they prayed, they preached, but they also spoke in tongues. And I would point that to my parents. Over my U.S. experience, I had become an atheist. Yeah, this was triggered from a class I had.
Yes.
A specific class that was geared towards, getting students to become thinking, maybe evolutionary thinking and all of those things.
Yes.
So I was almost committed atheist. We came from the Darwin's theory makes sense. But as these preachers were talking, Jesus was very attractive. Very attractive. Something about Jesus and everything he said, everything he did, it was admirable.
Yeah.
But they spoke in tongues, and I was like, this is fake. There's something wrong with this whole thing. It's not genuine.
Yeah.
So I kept pressuring my mother that this couldn't be real. Nevertheless, she would keep going to a new church to find a different view about that. And everywhere she went, this thing would continue. Or it would be something else. It would be music. It would be like band music, and they would turn the lights off or wave their hands in the air. And I'd be like, there's something wrong with this.
It didn't feel authentic to you.
It didn't feel authentic to me. Maybe it feels authentic to some other people, but to me, coming from a worldly perspective, coming from the nightlife, I connected that. This is nightlife stuff.
I see.
In fact, there was a pastor, and maybe I'm going off the alley a little bit.
It's okay.
There was a pastor who said, we reached the prostitutes. And I'm like, okay, you got the prostitutes coming, and you're turning the lights up, and you got band music up. This is pretty much a nightclub.
It's a familiar environment.
And I'm like, this is, how can this be Christian?
Yeah.
So as I put these questions up, my mother was like committed to finding a church that makes sense to me. And this is when something amazing happened. There was a sandstorm in Dubai. It was a bad one. I mean, the air was black. I've never seen anything like it. And we lost all our power for a while. We lost our TV channels. And when it all came back and life was restoring, Mom got her TV back, and she got a guy to come in and get her TVs back. And she used to watch TBN, God TV, and all of these kind of things. And that's when this Pakistani man who had come said, well, there's another channel called 3ABN. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And Mom's never heard of it. So she said, well, if it's Christian, go ahead. And she started watching it.
3ABN.
3ABN. And there was something about the people on TV. I'm serious. This was TV preaching to her. And she said, son, check this out. This is interesting. And so I would come, sit down, have lunch and dinner with them. And that's where our TV was. We had a hall TV. We were like very TV people, at least with the family. And we would watch this thing over those lunches and dinner. And every time I watched it, I didn't see the band music. I didn't see people asking for money. Like the born-again pastors were always talking about sow a seed of faith and, money, money, money. Money ran the whole thing. I didn't see that. And they didn't speak in tongues. In fact, they had a better interpretation of that whole text. And I started to lose my, excuses, because I was kind of hiding behind these excuses to come out to faith in Jesus. And there were other things. Why is there suffering in this world? And all of these questions, philosophically, and everything that class had done to me, I couldn't hold water in those things anymore. And they started to break down all my philosophies. And in my heart, I said, this is true. It makes sense. and these people look like genuine people. And no sooner have I picked up that interest, my mother was like very keen on observing it. A year and a half had gone by, and there was a particular series we were watching, and one of them specifically pointed out the Seventh-day Adventist Church as the true church of God.
Oh.
And that was the first time in my life I heard the word Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I would have left it there, but Mom picked it up, and she went looking for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Dubai. She attended the service, she met some elders, she met the pastor, and then they were at my home. And she told me, son, if you want to ever go to the church, that's where it is.
Interesting.
And that was, the next Sabbath was my very first Sabbath, and it's 14 years going, and I'm still keeping the Sabbath.
That's wonderful.
It's amazing.
That's wonderful.
It's amazing.
How God reached into a life that was very secular.
Very secular.
And brought you to Him.
Well, I still had many problems. I used to smoke. I could cut back on the nightlife. Those things were depressing, and I knew I was not enjoying them anymore. But there were things that had to leave me. And I remember praying, God, if you're really there, and if this is really true, then help me change. And perhaps, the church members had helped me. The elders helped me. The pastor, he was from Barbados, he put up with me. Man, that man put up with me. And, I was early into leadership. I became a youth leader, later a clerk. So all of those things, I started to work my way through the church system. And I was getting accustomed. I learned how to sing hymns, okay?
Yeah.
And I started enjoying those things. I started to become a Christian.
It takes a while to become a disciple and enter the new culture from where you were.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is my history. Catholic and
atheist,
and then a Seventh-day Adventist. And I can say it was darkness, and I've come into light. That's how I like to describe it. I mean, that's the words of Paul and Peter.
Yeah, and it describes your experience. Yes. So briefly tell me how you made it from Dubai to AIAS.
Wow, okay. So this is a longer story.
Oh.
Well, me and my wife, I married my wife. She was my assistant youth leader. So we started dating right there.
So you met your wife at church, Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yeah, and she had a brain. That's really why I married her, because she was smart. And I remember in those younger days, we would encourage each other. Oh, you could date this guy. Oh, you could date this girl. So we did all of these things, but she was the one for me, and God knew it. And anyway, we got married. And when we got married, we were both in debt. She was building a home for her parents here in the Philippines, and me and Dad was in some kind of business, and we had a fallout, and we were trying to recover that. So we were both in debt, and 3 years into our marriage, we were paying debt, and we were in small jobs. It's our younger years, but we started growing, and we started doing better. So Beth and I, we had kids very fast. Okay, we had Hannah, and then we had Jeremiah and Zechariah. All together, the twins came together. And so we went from 2 people to 5 very quickly. Now, Dubai is a great city, and we were doing well in our careers. It's a great city, but when you become a big family, it becomes very difficult. So we used to leave our kids, go to work. It was a whole day affair. We come home, traffic, commuting, and our kids will be with a full-time house help. And so we had a guilt of not spending enough time with our kids. We were making good money. Life was great, but we're not spending enough time with our kids. All we had was 2 days off every week, and that would go so fast, church work and other things. So we had this guilt, and we were carrying this, and we knew we had to do something. And another thing that was happening was I was looking into my own career. I was, for the last 5 years of my career, I was in the media. I was in the advertising business. And I was a salesman for advertising. Basically, we had a magazine. I had a brand that I was marketing, and I did some events as well. So I looked into the future, and I said, people who work in this career are young people, and by the time you're 40, 45, the industry is going to spit you out.
Yeah.
Or you're going to move up to a CEO level, and very few people do that.
Yeah.
So we looked into the future. We had the guilt of not spending enough time with the kids, plus this, and we were thinking, what are we going to do? And this is the time my wife was like, Anup, you have a skill or a gift in teaching. Maybe you should be a teacher. You're a good Sabbath school teacher. You're a Bible, you do Bible work and stuff. So why don't you think about being a teacher? And I said, well, you have a master's, but I don't. And I see a long road in front of me. I don't know if I can do that. But she was like, no, you can. Go part-time or something. So this was 2014. And in 2015, I enrolled for a master's program with a university, part-time basis, University of Wollongong in Dubai. They have a Dubai campus, good school, and started that part-time program. And we would make our visits on holidays to the Philippines. Now, while we were here, my wife said, I've been to AIAS. It's a great place. Would you like to see it? So I said, yeah, let's go see it. So we're not really close to this place, but we made we came by. And as soon as I walked through the gates, and I looked at everything we have there, the gym, and I walked past the tennis court, I got into the housing area, and I was just, amazed that this is a nice place. I could see myself living here.
Yeah.
And this was 2016, August. And Ranjit comes out of the door. He comes and he speaks in my own mother tongue. I don't know, he assumes I'm a Malayali. And he speaks to me in Malayalam. And I'm like, hey, great, we have some Indian people here.
Yeah.
So, all of this was interesting to me. And I think ever since then, I've been telling my wife, let's go to AIAS 2020. October of 2020, let's go there. And so my wife is an accountant, and she put a whole budget out. She said, all right, that means we're going to have to plan for staying there 4 or 5 years, school fees and kids' fees. And so it was a whole planning process there. And we started a savings program towards coming here October 2020. We were already committed because we fell in love with this place and with the people. Mm-hmm. And well, as that was going on, me and Beth, we both got better jobs. And it seemed like maybe we wouldn't come here. But I wrote my final exam on May 23rd, 2018. And I remember these dates because you're going to see why it's significant. May 23rd, 2018, I wrote my final exam for my MBA, and I was done. On May 24th, my wife was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, my.
Grade 2 invasive ductal carcinoma, breast cancer. I mean, so, and she was on the verge of getting another job. It's going to pay her 30% higher. She was very excited about it. It's an Australian-based company. And then we just paused and we were like, we are just entering our 40s and we are hit with this thing. Maybe we should think about AIAS more seriously. Mm-hmm. And but we're not done with our savings program. That's going to take us to 2020. So we are kind of halfway into it. Mm-hmm. And we were thinking, this is probably God telling us to just leave it as it is and do what we can and leave. Mm-hmm. And so May 23rd, we began to consolidate all our stuff. Beth got her surgery. She didn't do the chemo or radiation, but she got a surgery. And by August 31st, I had resigned and left my job because I had already got my admissions into AIAS for October. Mm-hmm. On October 5th, we flew it here, and we were here since. Oh. So that is our story, and there's a lot of God intervention there.
Yes.
There was some planning there, but AIAS was already there in the picture. Mm-hmm. Things are coming in the way, but nevertheless, we finally made it through. I don't know if you knew this part of the story.
I didn't know all the parts of the story. That's very interesting. Yeah. So you're self-sponsored students because you had been preparing for this. Tell me, what is your dream, what you plan to do when you're done, or what you would like to do?
Well, as of now, being in AIAS is great. I mean, we have been enjoying the life here, the people here, the routine here, and just the cut off from the world that's been great. It's put us into a routine, and we've been enjoying that. Our kids have been enjoying the time back with us as well. And so whatever we do, we don't see clearly into the future, but we do see one thing. We want to keep spending time with our kids like this. And I do want to teach. So there's teaching definitely there. There could be consulting, because I am getting into a business program, and it's a serious program. And I am learning about how to manage businesses.
Yes.
So definitely consultancy would be there.
Yeah.
If we ever choose to go back into the Middle East setup again, we will do it carefully.
Yeah.
We'll think through it.
Yeah. Protect the balance in your life and family.
So as of now, teaching, yes. Spending time with our kids.
Yeah.
That is critical.
Yes. So tell me, in your experiences at AIAS, how has this place prepared you for leadership so far?
Okay. Well, life at AIAS itself has been awesome. And I think I'm restating this, but the week of prayer, the prayer life, the Wednesday nights, the Westburn, all of this routine, this is something we never had in our secular world. I mean, because once we off church on Sabbath, we are back with church people again, next Sabbath. But here I'm living with pastors. Yeah. Okay, and they call me pastor. Yeah. Because I have become a different person. I've become a different person here. Yeah. And I am enjoying that. So this is in itself doing something to me. It's putting the mission in focus, reaching the world, but preparing ourselves for that process. So, and also reaching my children, who, because I want them to be converted Seventh-day Adventists. Yeah. They don't have my upbringing, but they do have, I need to do what I can so that they have a similar experience of coming into the faith as I did. So I don't want to lose that. So it becomes their own eventually. Now, in terms of the classes and everything, this has been great. Because the business school we have here, and I'm not in any way making this up. I went to 2 secular schools. I went to Boca Raton, Florida Atlantic University, and then I did my master's at University of Wollongong. So 2 good schools. One was in Florida, it was a US school, and then an Australian school. And the stuff I'm learning here is not overlapping in any way. I am seriously into the advanced stuff. You're breaking new ground with your studies. Okay, and the whole program itself, coursework plus your research time, great setup. I'm enjoying that because I'm getting into advanced stuff, and I'm seeing stuff that has happened in my own career life, and I'm saying, hey, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So theories, concepts, getting into all of that stuff has been great. Our professors are deeply spiritual people as well. Dr. Swansea, I tell him I'm a Swansean. Yeah. I tell him I'm a Swansean now, okay? Yes. And maybe he doesn't like that very much, but he is a spiritual person, even though he may not look it. And some of the things he says in class, believe me, it's fantastic. I mean, he summarizes my entire 5-year experiences in just a few sentences. Yes. And I don't know if he's realizing he's doing that, but classes with him, Dr. Leroy, and others, they're deeply spiritual people. And the program here is very competitive. And I have to add this, the faith integration that comes into the whole thing. The whole getting into the class, praying, having a devotion, this was not available in the secular setup. Yeah. This is a different life. Yeah. And it gives us a sense of purpose why we are learning. Yes. So it's not just what we are learning, the content, which is great by itself, but why we are learning. Developing leaders, it's mission focused, getting into the heart of that. And so I know I'm becoming a different animal altogether. The AIAS experience, cutting off from the world, plus the content and everything going through business school. And I'm seriously happy I'm a business student and not a theology student. I'm saying that. I feel like I'm getting a good package here. Yeah. That's preparing me for something which I really don't know yet.
Yeah. It's almost sounding to me like the metaphor of the cocoon, where you're crawling in a caterpillar and you're going to transform here into the next thing that God has for you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a very good analogy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Anup. God bless you in your studies.
Sure.
I look forward to following them.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.